A village was hiding among the misty haze of the morning mountains of the river veins, where the children knew only the smells of wildflowers and rain on the roof. But there was one girl named Lada who knew more than any diary can tell. She could hear animals. Not with words, not with gestures, but with something like a quiet pulse that made the heart listen to their thoughts in the pauses between people's steps. Lada walked along the edge of the forest, which smelled of pine trees and damp, and even the wind seemed to know her silence. Her gift did not whisper loudly. It was like touching the surface of the water with your finger, and the waves returned back to silence. She didn't like to show caution. She just knew that every creature has its own story and its own pain. One morning Lada saw a silvery haze behind the trees, as if the mountain was breathing. A herd of horses stood on the slope. Large manes swayed, hooves beat the rhythm of the mountain silence. The ruling horse, with a scar on his forehead and eyes the color of ice, held the herd in complete silent unity. Lada felt the air around her tighten with tension. Someone was injured, someone hid fear behind courage. She came closer, as if wearing a velvet cloak of invisibility, and her heart turned over. Not fear, but an unexpected clarity. The mountain was not just a flying rock, it was the keeper of the herd and their pain. Lada closed her eyes and listened to the echoes that rustled in the moss under her hoofs. Her gift has become something like a wind listener, which transfers worries from her chest to the wind and back. There, among the rocks and the whispering of the grasses, she caught a plea that weakened and disappeared immediately if it was not secured by one of the horses. It was not a request for help right here and now, but for attention. Please don't leave. You see, there is a wound here that no one heals. A wound that we carry together like the shadow of an evening road. Lada slowly lay down on the ground to see the world through the eyes of a horse. She felt the steel of bone under her fur, the cold, rigid nerves, and the warm lies of the old days. She heard the story of a wounded stallion who lost his mother during a storm. His fear is resentment of the world for not being just a horse, without tricks and danger. He was in pain because his family had gone to the top of the mountain, and he was left alone to defend the herd. Lada knew that words would not be enough. He needed to be present, to be seen and accepted for who he was. She didn't try to heal the wound physically, she became a silence in which the stallion could breathe again. She walked beside them, not entering their space too closely, so as not to frighten, but on the contrary, to make it feel that a person from Earth can also hold the world in his hands. The herd sensed her. Not as a stranger, but as the breath of the moon, which comes and goes, leaving behind a calm. The stallion's head was laid on its side, and his eyes felt lighter, as if the memory of his mother had given him breath. Lada realized that her gift was not only to listen, but also to give something more. Presence without judgment, understanding without pressure. At sunset, when the sky turned scarlet, the herd slowly descended to the trail, to the mountain stream. Lada returned to the village, but she did not escape from the memory of fragments of loud silence on the mountain. She knew that there were many wounds in the world that lived in the shadows, and that sometimes it was enough to be there, without words, without promises, for the pain to begin to let go. Since then, every time there is fog and the mountain breathes cold, Lada goes there again. She is not a rescuer or a magician, she is just a person who knows how to listen to the breathing of animals and learn patience from him. And in this listening, she finds her way. Not to heal wounds by force, but to let them talk and fall asleep when there is a place for silence.